From the Channel Seed Studios, welcome to The Hook. A look behind the lines with Mike Palm and Ken Miller. Powered by Circa Sports Iowa. Sports betting the way it should be. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed. Seedsmanship at work.
And hello again, everyone, and welcome back. Another episode of The Hook. My name's Ken Miller, along with Trent Condon. I'm on Des Moines Sports Station, 106.3 KXNO, weekdays from 11 to 1. My partner, who will join Trent and I on Fridays, is 11:30 during the football season, is Mike Palm, Vice President of Operations at Circa Sports. There's two seasons, you've told me, Mike. There's football season at Circa, and there's non-football season at Circa. Football season starts tonight. A little different in the casino, isn't it?
It's been 207 days since the Chiefs beat the Eagles 38-35 in Super Bowl 57 in that slip and slide in Glendale, Arizona. And football's back tonight with a terrific matchup, especially with, we're talking about Kelsey and the 2 point to it. But how about, I think Jones is the bigger factor, not playing on the defensive side of the ball for Kansas City. I think the Lions are live tonight.
I do too, and I would have said that prior to the Kelsey news based on Chris Jones not playing as big a factor. I agree with you wholeheartedly. One of the best defensive players in the game. He might be in the building, which is really rare, right? That he's holding out, but they're going to unveil the banner tonight, and apparently he may be there. With Kelsey, Mike, I got to think that there are very few non-quarterbacks that can move a number, right? Skill players, running backs, wide receivers, maybe a short list of tight ends. Kelsey's as good as there is. Did he affect the point spread either way? Because it sounds like he won't go.
I think it was ticking down. I think he had perfected the point spread about 1.5, which I think is an overreaction just based on that. It's the combination with Jones being out and the Detroit offensive line being considered a top 5-6 offensive line in football, and that factor. We had this discussion during my panel, as you're well aware, when I asked the panelists if there's any non-quarterback worth more than a point. They didn't think so. I posed the question, what about the one-off of Justin Tucker on a closely lined game if he were to be canceled on a Sunday morning and say he couldn't go for the Ravens? I think he might be worth 3 points to a line.
Going back, and it was probably in his heyday, was before your time, but what would Jerry Rice have done to a line? Would he be one of the few?
That's very interesting because, he stands out. And in that offense with San Francisco, I mean, what did Randy Moss do to a line? I mean, the year Brady hooked up with him was, the greatest season up to the Super Bowl any team's ever had.
Right.
So I still think that's 1.5 points, but football's back. The contest, I know you're leading into that. We're imminently going to pass 8,000 here as we tape on Thursday afternoon. Around 4,400 in the millions. I think we're going to end up short there, maybe around 5,300. Best case scenario, 5,500. And I think we get to 9,000 in Survivor.
And you're coming off what, a 5,100 number in millions last year?
No, 4,693.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes. So a little more than 1.3. I think we'll chop that down maybe in half this year. The overlay.
Good stuff. Well, I submitted our picks on behalf of the group earlier today.
What is your position? You are partners?
I'm Circa Millions on my own.
One entry?
Just one entry. Yeah. And we have 4 survivors with the group. So we have
how many are in the group?
8. We have 4 $500 shares.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Trent, what did Trent end up doing?
1-1.
On his own?
On his own, yeah. 1-1.
Okay.
So he's in for $2,000. I'm in for $1,500.
So but he's so hoping that his one out last year 4. I can just think, right?
Yes. Well, he did last year.
I know.
We had 3 last year. Now he's on the Vikings this week. We have 1 on the Vikings. I don't know. Something about Tampa Bay worries me.
So I've been talking about this ad nauseum probably for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think the Commanders will be the number 1 chosen team. Because you have to use 20 teams out of 32, and where else are you going to use them? But then I think Minnesota, Baltimore, and maybe Jacksonville make up the 2, 3, 4 spot. I'm not sure in what order. Maybe Baltimore's 4th, because you probably want to save them. Remember, you can get frisky and take the Lions tonight.
Well, if you're in Vegas.
And if you get knocked out, re-enter and essentially and get back up to 10 entries. Or you could do. I don't know why you would do it with Kansas City. That wouldn't make sense to me. But
yeah, and if I was in Vegas, I think that's a prudent move.
Yeah.
But and it's the only opportunity you can to lose and actually get back in. It's the one game of the year. So we went Washington, Baltimore, Vikings, and then it came back to Jacksonville and Washington. We went in for more Washington because I'm not sure I'm ever going to use them again.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with splitting them half your entries on the Commanders.
That's what we did. So Washington, you think will be the most popular?
I think they'll be close to 40% of the entries.
Yeah,
just my thought. Has Trent declared where he's going?
Vikings.
Oh yeah, you said that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, he's going Vikings. And next week is crazy. Have you looked at next week?
Is he a Vikings fan? I know he's a Twins fan.
No, he's a Bears fan. He loves all Minnesota sports except for the NFL, and he's a Bears fan, which doesn't make much sense. You know what? Speaking of the Bears, Jordan Love might be without both wide receivers this weekend. Does that make the Bears live in your mind, or did you think they were live prior to that news?
No. My number one position in the NFL is the Bears are awful, and there's no way that they're going to go from 3 to 8. Well, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They have an offensive line that can't pass block, a defensive line that can't rush the passer, an inaccurate quarterback. Ken, in their last 9 games last year, they only scored more than 7 points in the second half once. I mean, this was a god-awful team. After they upset New England on Monday Night Football and knocked so many people out of Survivor, they did nothing the rest of the year. They weren't competitive. I don't get it. I got them under 7.5 wins. I got them under 6.5. I got them to finish last in the North. I got them to be the last team with a win. I did. I bet them every which way but loose that you could against them this year.
So let's take a look at the weekend. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about Cy-Hawk. We'll get to college football coming up. And I want to go back to last weekend, just what was good for you guys, what hurt you guys last week. But this weekend, week number 1 in the NFL, there's some really juicy games, Mike. I mean, really.
Somebody asked me, what game are you most interested in watching? I mean, there's like 4 or 5 to choose from that are really good.
Yes.
I ended up saying Cincinnati and Cleveland just because I think the most compelling story is the AFC North. But there's some terrific games. I think San Francisco at Pittsburgh.
I love that game.
Terrific game.
Yes.
Terrific game. Even Philadelphia at New England. Terrific game. Miami at the LA Chargers. Terrific.
That's where I was going next. It's huge.
Bears Packers should be a really good. It's still a good game. You see 2 quarterbacks. I mean, they're good matchups in week 1.
And we haven't even touched on the primetime games. I mean, Monday night with Aaron Rodgers going up against Buffalo. Yeah. Might that be the biggest? I don't know what the Monday night slate's like. You might do more on this more right on this Monday night than any of the subsequent Mondays. Fair?
Possible.
Hard to say?
It's possible.
Possible, yeah.
Because there's a lot of people still in town, too. Remember, This is a huge weekend for us.
Yeah, you're sold out. How long have you been sold out?
No, we've been sold out for about 6 months on this date. People they start booking their cabanas and booths and all that, 9 months out for opening weekend.
What's the weather going to be like? I mean, Mike, last weekend, Twitter was horrifying. We know the link always floods. But were you caught up in any of the washouts, any of the flash floods? It was everywhere in Vegas.
Well, not me, but we did have some water leak and at the D and Golden Gate both.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, especially the gate. We received, Kenny, 1 1/4 inch of rainfall in 12 minutes at Circa. And 2 3/4 inches over 33 hours, which there's no place for the water to go. It's all rock.
Right.
It's all rock. So, I mean, it just flows downhill and it just rushes and it just, you saw the link. I mean, it was like 12 feet of water. And so when I went home, I guess it was Saturday night, I didn't get on the highway because I don't want to drive more than 25 miles an hour anyhow, because people don't know how to drive in the rain here. Mm-hmm. Plus, a lot of people they don't know where they're going because they're from out of town. So it makes it worse. But I took all surface roads. I encountered 2 intersections that were flooded out that I had to go back and go around. There had to be 4 accidents with ambulances there. I mean, it was just really bad driving. And the rain was just pouring down. It was hard to see.
Yeah, I bet it was. So last weekend, I saw on Twitter today, I think page 6 in one of the New York tabloids. This is the Post. I think it's the Post that has page 6. Broke the story who dined at your steakhouse over the weekend, this past weekend. the rapper Drake and the former world champion, heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, were both in Barry's last weekend. How about that?
Yeah, that was Sunday night, coincidentally, right? But then when Drake found out Tyson was there, he wanted to go meet him. But certainly Drake may be one of the biggest names ever to come here, because of his popularity right now. And of course, tugs at your heartstrings being a fellow Canadian.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty cool deal. And we had a box at the concert. We took some real good players there. Obviously, it's a top act. And we've talked about Vegas for the entertainment and the food. You can't really
nothing like it. Yeah, not absolutely nothing like it. Well, that's pretty neat. Formula One, just one thing on this before we get back in this, going inside some of the numbers here. They cut down the trees in front of Bellagio for Formula One. And they tried to fib and say that they're just displacing them for a while. They'll put them back. They cut them. You can't put them back.
15 is closed right now. I mean, it's just awful right now. We're getting into the height of this construction of this track, and it's just a mess. It's an absolute mess, Kenny.
I hear City Council say, we didn't anticipate it going like this. They're caught off guard.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Northwestern coach who looked totally caught off guard Sunday morning in Piscataway, like he had no clue what was going on.
No, that team's going to struggle. They might not win a game, Mike. They might not win a game.
They rushed for 12 yards against the worst rush defense in the Big Ten. They are really, really bad.
Yeah.
And they give up, and they just give up on it. Then they just want to throw the ball. I mean, this kid's going to get picked off 50 times.
Yeah, it could be. When it comes to the Super Bowl, who do you guys have liability on?
We got bet the Chiefs back again as one of the favorites. 49ers took some action here. And of course, Detroit. I think those are the three biggest liabilities I looked earlier in the week. And it may change as we get to Sunday morning in earnest here. But those were the three right now. And nothing like what we were with the Chiefs. Remember, we took the $300,000 bet at 10-1 last year in mid-August.
Yeah.
So we sat with that liability all year.
Yeah, no, that's tough to get up from underneath. No doubt about that. All right, let's move on from the NFL. What is your Super Bowl matchup? What's your exacta?
I took Browns.
Yeah.
Bengals.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take a little bit of a longer shot, Dolphins in the AFC, and just the two favorites in the NFC. So I went.
So no Cowboys.
No, I have no interest in the Cowboys. Zero. I would play Seattle before I'd play Dallas.
Condon feels the same way. I'm on the Cowboys train. I used to I threw the Cowboys and a little bit of Lions. If the Lions get there, I'd hate for my Chargers to play, somebody I don't have and win a Super Bowl, and I'm not. I've got all those tickets for so many years, and I come up empty. So we'll see. Let's talk last week in college football. What was good for you guys? What hurt you guys? Was there a game that didn't go your way? Were there a couple of games that did go your way?
Well, it was a great Saturday for us. But the game that really went against us was, you can't believe how many people had Coach Prime on the money line. I mean, we
really
started off way in the hole, and then everything else really went our way.
Huh, interesting. So what was behind that? Because
Tennessee covering was also the other bad early result. People were on Tennessee against Virginia, but everything else really went our way. Ohio State doesn't cover. We needed the under badly in that game. That was never in doubt. They bet that game over. That Indiana offense might be not as bad, but close to it. They have no quarterback either. I mean, they've got no shot with their offense. No. We had good two-way action on LSU and Florida State. We needed Florida State just a little, so that really wasn't a big factor. Clemson losing outright was good for us. People had them in money line parlays that got knocked out Monday night.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, good. Well, let's talk college football. We're going to start with Cyhawk. First of all, it's going to be a zoo. As we know, there are now going to be 4 presidential candidates making their way to Ames and taking in at least a part of that football game. Did you ever attend Iowa State game growing up, Mike?
No, I never did. We would go. My dad would always go to the Michigan game when they played in Iowa City, so I went to that 3 or 4 times. And then we would go to Ames to see Nebraska or Oklahoma play. I mean, that's why we would go to Ames, just because we wanted to see those really good teams, in that era in the early 80s. I mean, they were playing to go in the national championship either every year, one or the other, right? So, you just wanted to see those great teams when they rolled through Ames, because Iowa State really was, a 2 to 4 win team at maximum at that time.
Yeah, absolutely, it was. Dan McCartney changed that around and changed that rivalry around, did he not? When he got there was, I think, I want to say 1998. I think they finally won. It was a weird score, like 24-9 or something like that. Hi, Jed. I'll be back then. Give me a minute here. So let's talk Sidehawk. The number comes out, and what have you seen? Has it been two-way action, both sides so far?
A little bit back and forth, 4-3.5, 4-3.5. The total we opened 35.5. It's up to 36.5. That's one game that I don't like to bet the Cyhawk under, because I just think there's strange touchdowns that always occur. Defensive touchdowns, kick returns. So, and the total's generally very low in the game. So I just stay away from it. I thought both teams were wildly disappointing in week one.
I agree with you.
If you had a Hawkeye ticket, 8 minutes into the game, you could shut the TV off and go to the window and cash later in the day. And they were putrid for they really only scored 3 points the rest of the game. They were gifted 7 on that drive. The fourth down play came after the play clock expired. They called it no catch on the field. I didn't think it was compelling that it was a catch. Somehow they give them a first down. It was screwy. Then they get a touchdown. And then what were they doing that let Utah State just go boom, 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 boom down the field and score
at the end
in the last 2 minutes? So not impressed with 24 points against that team. And then Iowa State got outgained by UNI, but something I said to Chris Williams when he was out here for that week with Radio Row and the sign up. Look, Iowa State is going to take advantage of this new timing rule. They're going to play games with very few snaps. They have to. They'll rely on their defense, shorten game. That's going to be their formula all year, no matter who they're playing against. So, I would lean under in the Iowa game, but like I said, I don't play that rivalry under. But that they are going to be one of the slowest pace in terms of snaps per game teams in the country, if not the slowest.
Well, I believe they had only 45 snaps, 47, which was I think their low since they won a game since way back in the 60s or something like that. I saw that stat. So here's how I saw it. My expectations for Iowa, they were through the roof. I thought this team was going to win the West. And they came nowhere near to living up to my expectations. Iowa State, on the other hand, I thought that this was going to be a long year. So they actually maybe exceeded my expectations a little bit. I think it's going to be I think this is a coin flip football game, Mike. I really do. Both teams have really good defense.
You would take 4 points then?
Yes, I would. I would take the points here. In fact, McNamara can't move around. He's going to be a cigar store Indian back there. He just is. He can't move. I might take Iowa State outright in the football game. And all summer long, I thought Iowa would kill them by 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Well, I would have thought this game would have been a full touchdown this week, right? Heading in.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I just hope it's not, it will be, but I hope people can get into the stadium. I hope they can drive there without having to take 4 hours and all the Secret Service and all this nonsense, and they can just enjoy the game. But maybe they'll be on their best behavior with all the federales in attendance.
Yeah, I hope so. Good place, Elise. I can't wait to just turn on the TV and watch it right there. So Colorado, Nebraska, the action on this game has exceeded.
Incredible.
Has it really? Anything compared to what? Can you compare it to anything? Game?
Well, the limits were lower in the week. So, it'll be hard to get to an NFL right on week one. But the moves on this game, the look ahead here was Nebraska 2.5 road favorite. Not here, but in most books across. We opened them 5 with the opening number for this week. Yeah. It got bet down to 2. It's back to 3. How about the total? We opened at 65. It got down to 56. It's back to 60. So, I mean, the interest in this game is incredible. How good a job has Fox done?
Oh,
controlling these conferences, knowing to put Colorado in their prime time, big Saturday when they get them again this week. While the hopes are still high, I think they've done a bang up job with sports. Actually, this Fox group.
Hard to argue that point, Mike.
I think Joel Klatt's as good as there is.
Absolutely, my favorite. Yeah,
I think that Jenny Taft. What a good job they did.
All-American girl.
What a great tagline for this girl. Whatever they come 5-6 years ago with that. I mean, it's just that they've marketed well and they've executed well.
I'm not a Gus Johnson fan, but I love the rest of the crew.
I think he gets a little over the top.
Right. Precisely.
He gets a little, the play-by-play guy shouldn't be the story except in huge moments and iconic calls, right?
Yeah. Look, I don't think Colorado's defense is worth a darn. I think they're going to win some games based on the talent that they have. I mean, Sanders' kid can flat out play.
I would say this, though. I would caution this. I think the starting 22 for Colorado is pretty good.
Okay.
Now, the two-way kid, how many snaps can he take at elevation in Boulder? More than a mile high, right? And how fast can they run that offense in thin air? I would question that. And also, Nebraska's a 96% chance of winning that game with 4 minutes to go. If the kid doesn't fumble the ball, the game's over. They go into Minnesota and win that game.
Yeah.
Right? So I think Matt Rule has made progress there. So
it's a huge difference. I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm going to enjoy the game and watch it. And maybe there's an end-game spot. I'm not betting it pre-flop. But what a great storyline this actually is, to have a team that was maybe the worst Power 5 team in the last 30 years. You overhaul everything. You bring him in, and they certainly were fun to watch. I mean, they changed pace so effectively in that game against TCU. They slow, fast. I mean, they had no penalties in the first half on the road. TCU had 7. Right? They won the turnover. They won the turnover battle. I mean, they did all the coach things.
Yeah. I even liked the pregame speech. I got pumped up listening to him address the team, for crying out loud, before they ran out onto the field. Let's go to tomorrow night. Texas, Alabama. Alabama got a scare last year in Austin. Ewers doesn't get hurt. Texas might have won that football game. Ewers did not look good. I think Nick Saban has a quarterback. I think I'm going to be dead wrong on my season outlook on Alabama, because I did not give this Milroe kid any credit at all. Boy, he looked good. The numbers, what have you guys got? You're still at 7.
Haven't moved. Haven't budged. Even with him out, Alabama caught a couple breaks or they lose that game in Austin.
Yeah, they
big caught time. A couple breaks. That being said, geez, I thought this game would go north of 7 too. They looked very pedestrian against Rice in the first half. I didn't think they looked good at all. That being said, Tuscaloosa is a really tough environment to go into. I cannot take 7 here. I might lay it before it's all said and done. I don't think the game ever goes to 6.5. I think if you like Alabama, you probably got to lay it now.
Where do you guys have Florida State national championship? Were you 10-1? I looked, I think, earlier in the week, something like that.
I thought we were at 10-1. We might have ticked down to 9-1. Geez, I think this team's got a good shot to go 12-0 and get in the playoff. Especially how bad the Clemson offense looked. Yeah. I know they have to go to Death Valley.
They do.
That's the big game in 3 weeks from now or whatever it is, or 2 weeks.
23rd, I think.
2 weeks from this weekend.
Yeah.
But they've got a real good shot of running the table if they can win that game.
Well, we talked about it in the weeks leading up to the start of college football. We didn't think there was anything worth betting on. If you can get double digits on Florida State, that might be the place you land, right?
Yeah.
If you have to bet a future.
I mean, it looked like the wrong team was favored in that game against LSU. I mean, they really played well. And LSU, I don't think is going to be any joke either. So, I mean, I think they beat a real good team on a neutral field. And so Colorado and Florida State are obviously the best 2 storylines early in the year.
And the Pac-12 overall.
Well, Oregon played a junior. I mean, come on. I mean, Portland, they had 8,000 yards. And I thought Washington State was impressive. Colorado State, I thought UCLA was actually decent against a Coastal Carolina team. They might have found their quarterback there. Stanford, everybody in the world moved that game from 10 to 2.5. They dominated. Hawaii was never in that game. So far, so good. Cal went to North Texas and scored 8 million points, and that steam play was North Texas. So far, so good. I think we'll find out as Oregon goes to Lubbock this week how good the Pac-12 is.
Condon loves Texas Tech. Loves them.
So does Chris Williams. It's his play of the millennia.
Is it really?
Oh, that's all because I talk about his plays.
Yeah.
He likes the spot with. He actually likes Florida Atlantic and Tom Herman more this week, but he likes the spot with Oregon hearing how great they are and Texas Tech hearing how terrible they were. He just likes catching 6.5 in Lubbock in a tough spot to play.
Did he mention Utah Baylor? Because that's my play of the week. I love the Utes.
Yeah. Baylor's going to have trouble. They lose the quarterback, and the defense looked bad.
Awful.
The defense looked bad in that game. Utah's going to be another sneaky under the radar team. You know, I know they didn't have great second half numbers, but they killed Florida with their second string quarterback. Florida was never in that game. It was over early.
No, it is. Well, we'll let you go. I know you got a busy night ahead of you. Week number 1, game number 1, Kansas City and Detroit. So you would you'd be tempted to take the Lions?
But don't tell these people I work with, because, you know, they're so excited they think the Lions won the Super Bowl because they're in the opening game. And now they're so excited. Here's their spot. They're going to beat the Chiefs. They're going to beat Mahomes and Arrowhead. By the way, you and your Canadians and these fires, did you see the air quality in Kansas City?
It's the same in Des Moines.
They called it unhealthy is what it's rated.
Yes.
So I wonder if that's a factor. Week 1's always tough for conditioning anyhow. I wonder if that'll be a factor tonight.
No, it's here in central Iowa too. We had it's been awful, the fires up north this year. Just terrible. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, we are out of time. Great hit.
Thank you to Aiden.
Yes.
The pride of Gladbrook Rhinebeck. I mean, that's tremendous what he's done for us.
No, and then he's hosting. So he's hosting a podcast. He told me he'd never get in front of the camera.
On Slam Ball? Is it a Slam Ball?
No, it's actually with Ben Bruns, the former.
I will bring Slam Ball to the Iowa Everett Network if it's the last thing I do.
It's going to happen, Aiden, is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That weather girl should be reporting that about the air conditions. There's a key spot for her. Yeah, she can report about the air conditions at Jack Trice this weekend.
Yeah. When's Power Slap come back, Mike? You guys are.
I prefer Slam Ball. Let's just put it that way. I think that's barbaric.
Well, I do too, but you know what?
This age of concussions, how can this happen?
I'm surprised that it gets a license, but this crazy Hawaiian.
Derek loves these characters.
Well, I came down the elevator. It was the same weekend when Trent and I were out there, and I came down the elevator to get a cup of coffee early one morning, and I bumped right into the crazy Hawaiian. What a big dude!
The storylines are pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
The guy, this one kid that came along or whatever, they told us, I forget the guy's name, Paul something. He was the first fight on the card. So he finally made the main event. And he was looking at the app and he's like, why am I plus 300? Why is that? And then the kid's telling about how he's so excited he got a hotel room. Usually he sleeps in the car. Yeah. And the story was unbelievable. But by the time it closed, the guy who was $1.40, his opponent closed $6.80. Right. So as he's telling Derek, I'm going to win this match. And Derek's like, oh, boy, maybe we got the wrong line. Everybody bet the opponent. This kid got, however, the first option to punch.
Yeah.
And he slapped the guy and broke his hand and lost the match.
And didn't he make it back to Circa? He was out at Stadium Swim.
He was at Stadium Swim watching the rest of the card on the big screen, sitting in the pool.
Awesome. He knows. Good stuff.
Where can we find the Aiden Wyatt podcast?
Sunday mornings.
On this network?
Yep, on the Iowa Everett Network.
Or is it a WKXNO sponsor?
No. He's with Ben Bruns. Breaking down. He's the former Iowa State lineman, Ben Bruns. Early 2000s, late 90s.
What's the focus of the podcast other than Iowa State football?
We're talking Mike Palm betting odds.
No. What is it really? What's the
just react to the game from Saturday.
Well, why are you different, Aiden? What makes you different that someone should tune into your podcast?
Well, I'm not different. Ben Bruns is the different one.
Well, you failed. You failed the question.
This show, I'm just there. I'm along for the ride.
You better edit out this last part here before you post it. You couldn't snap answer my question. No good.
Aiden steers the ship. The Ben Bruns podcast. Good stuff. Mike, enjoy the weekend, man. You guys are going to be busy. Sold out. It's going to be fun. Football's back. We'll do this again next week. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on the radio. How good with that? 11:30 our time. You're 9:30 yours?
Absolutely. I miss Trent.
You'll hear him tomorrow, and we'll see you folks next week. Thanks for tuning into The Hook. It's brought to you by Circa Sports Courts, available here in the state of Iowa. We'll see you next week. Enjoy all the football and enjoy Sion.